How should the opposition counter the BJP and the NDA's recently acquired women's political base? After all, whether it was Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, or Bihar, the female voter has made a world of difference to the BJP and the NDA's political fortunes. Now comes this prescription from Dr. Sanjaya Baru, senior journalist, author, editor, and also former media advisor to Manmohan Singh. And that advice? Mamata Banerjee is best placed to lead the opposition. In a moment from now, we'll be talking to Sanjaya Baru to find out more about this very intriguing political theory. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. Mamata Banerjee has long been a grassroots political fighter. Her worst critics would not take that away from her. And now, ahead of the West Bengal election, comes an interesting theory about her and around her. Dr. Sanjaya Baru, senior journalist, author, and former media advisor to Dr. Manmohan Singh, says if the opposition really effectively wants to take on the BJP and the NDA on its recently acquired women's voter base, well, it's got to think out of the box. And this out of the box thinking, Sanjaya Baru argues, should involve looking at Mamata Banerjee as a contender for the post of Prime Minister and also for somebody who can lead the opposition. Dr. Baru's comments come at a time when, well, we've seen Mani Shankar Iyer rail and rant against the Congress and actually argue that it's Stalin who's best placed to consolidate the opposition bloc. Mamata Banerjee as possible PM, well, Sanjaya Baru's theory was happily lapped up by at least one Trinamool Congress MP, Sagarika Ghosh, who happily shared the Telegraph column in which Dr. Baru made these comments on her feed on X. Let me welcome Dr. Sanjaya Baru to the program now. He's quite literally set the proverbial cat among the pigeons. Dr. Baru, your column made in Telegraph made for excellent and interesting reading. But should it be taken seriously at a political level? And let me explain what I mean. Of course, Mamata Banerjee's worst critics would not take away from the fact that she's a very serious politician, a hardworking 24/7 politician. But she is a politician in the end from one state, West Bengal. Therefore, people might ask, why do you think she is the best suited, as you argue in your column, to lead the opposition?
You know, Barkha, in May 1999, I was working for the Times of India. I wrote a column saying that Manmohan Singh should be the Prime Minister of India and that Sonia Gandhi had no other option but to make him the Prime Minister. You remember Sonia Gandhi tried to become Prime Minister with 272 seats in Parliament and she could not make it. When I wrote that column, a lot of political journalists laughed at me and said, what? Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister? Come on. You economic journalists don't understand politics.
Yeah.
5 years later, he became Prime Minister. So, my
so
name
are you saying that you are a political astrologer now?
No, so I'm just saying that my track record is not that bad, right?
Okay,
so,
fair.
But more seriously, I think, Bengal is an important state and Bengal is going in for an election. And in many ways, Mamata Banerjee has come to symbolize contemporary Bengal. And how she does there, I think, is going to have a lot of impact, not just on Bengal, but on national politics. But the second reason, as you mentioned in your introductory remarks, is that, in India, women's vote has become important. And if you look around, it is really pathetic that, first of all, BJP is a completely male-dominated political party. But all regional parties, whether it's the CPM in Kerala or in Bengal, or indeed, the DMK, the Chandrababu Naidu, any political party, regional party, all male-dominated. There is not a single important woman political leader. The only person we have is Priyanka Gandhi. Assuming Sonia has retired. And that's what, that's the BJP's whole campaign against Congress or dynasty, etc. Their credentials are not as strong. And finally, let me say this, and I think this is an extremely important point for Mamata. She is the only truly self-made political figure in Asia, not just India. across Asia, if you see. I mean, till recently Japan won the election and came to power, but even she is not as self-made. Mamata Banerjee is truly grassroots leader, self-made, struggled her way up, held power for 10 years. There is something in her, and I think we need to give her a chance.
How do you counter the critique of her being a one-state leader? She did try in the interim to expand the base beyond West Bengal, did not really significantly succeed at that. Is that a political liability?
Well, Narendra Modi was a one-state leader in 2013, right? I mean, he had to fight Lal Krishna Advani and take over the party. But Narasimha Rao was not a national leader. Manmohan Singh was not a national leader. The fact is that we are no longer in the era of single-party dominance. I mean, Narendra Modi, the BJP lost the election in 2024. They got 240 seats. I cannot imagine that with this kind of record now, in this term, in 2029, they would get more than 240. They'll probably be below 240. So we are looking at a coalition government. Next time around 2029, we are looking at a coalition government. And coalition governments, can throw up regional leaders and offer them the top job.
Another argument that you make, and I'll come back to your forecast for 2029 in just a bit, but another argument you make in your column is that the Rahul Gandhi, Mallikarjun-Kharge model of power distribution is a redux of the Sonia-Manmohan model. And having seen that one really closely, you're saying this isn't working this time around. There are questions over whether it worked the first time around as well. Can you elaborate on that?
You see, Rahul Gandhi has worked very hard. I mean, with this Padayatra and the last 5 years, he's really worked very hard and shown some energy in his politics. But I don't think he has really captured the imagination of the moment in this country, where being a grassroots politician, a self-made politician, has become important. And I think that is something which is, the charisma of the family is no longer that important. You have new generation of voters who are not going to vote for the Congress because this is the party of Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi. That history doesn't weigh that heavily. And so if you don't have a charisma of your own, which I don't see Rahul Gandhi having acquired, maybe Priyanka has it, but I don't know if she can actually come forward and sideline her brother and project her personality. If that kind of thing happens in the Congress party, I think there's still some future, because she seems to be charismatic from whatever little we have seen of her in parliament. But I think you need a truly charismatic leader to stand up to Narendra Modi. I mean, he has captured the imagination of at least 40-45% of the electorate. And unless you have a charismatic leader, and I think Mamata is, in that sense, a charismatic leader.
So let's explore a little bit further why you believe that 2029 is actually up for grabs. I mean, technically, every election is anybody's election. Those who have tried to claim that we know the mind of the Indian voter have often had egg on our faces. But I want to understand from you, we're still a few years away from 2029. Why are you so convinced at this point, when Modi has actually seemingly recovered from the slide he faced in 2024? Why are you convinced that 2029 is going to be a coalition government?
First of all, in 2024, when everybody is expecting 400 seats for the BJP, I wrote a column in the Indian Express saying who wants 400 seats or who wants 300
Correct.
seats.
I remember.
Right?
I remember that.
You remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite obvious even in 2024 that his own party and the RSS are quite tired of the kind of domination that he and Amit Shah have kind of exercised over that political regime. And I think that tiredness has increased from whatever I know of the BJP, whatever I know of the RSS. They are tired of this leadership. They want change. Bringing in this unknown entity as president of the party from Bihar, and all kinds of unknown entities as chief ministers of states. I think there is a tiredness setting in. That's one reason. And second reason, I think the record in the last, 1.5 years or whatever since the last election has not been very impressive. I mean, you look at the economy, you look at the handling of the international situation, you look at the handling of the United States, you look at the way in which we are facing up to China's growing, presence globally. I think the message I get, I mean, as someone who has kind of studied the Indian government and politics now for some time, the message I get is of a government that is tired, is of a cabinet that is jaded. This Prime Minister is the first person who has not had a cabinet reshuffle of any significance in 10 years. I mean, the same finance minister continues, the same foreign minister, the same railway minister, the same home minister. I think there is a need for fresh blood. But where is that fresh blood? If you go by the choice for the party president or choice for chief minister of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, etc., you don't see that fresh blood. So I do believe that, 2029 is up for grabs. I mean, as you correctly said, in politics, nothing can be predicted. But if you look at what the trends, I believe 2029 is up for grabs. But the opposition needs a story, it needs a leader, it needs a platform, which unfortunately I don't think Rahul Gandhi has been able to adequately construct.
Another question, of course, is why the Congress would cede this space at all to Mamata Banerjee. Sagarika Ghosh, former colleague of ours, now at Trinamool Congress MP, was very quick to endorse your Telegraph column, not surprisingly. Mamata is her leader. But the more serious question I have for you is, on the day when Mamata Banerjee was appearing in Supreme Court, to talk about the electoral rolls, and it could have been a big political headline, Rahul Gandhi was agitating in Parliament about other issues, and I think General Naravne's book and other issues, and a lot of people felt that became a competitive sort of headline jousting. There wasn't any convergence, there wasn't any joint opposition strategy, and in the end, egos have taken down bigger men and women than Rahul Gandhi and Mamata Banerjee. So, do you see that there will be takers in the Congress for what you're saying?
Well, that I don't know. I don't know the Congress. Of course, the coincidence of Mamata Banerjee appearing in Supreme Court and Rahul speaking in Parliament may have been accidental. After all, they don't decide these agendas. The Supreme Court and the Speaker and Parliament decide these, engagements. So I don't think that was deliberate. But I have no idea how the Congress will react, because my view rather, has been for some time, not just now, for some time now, is that unless the Congress goes back to becoming the Indian National Congress, it has no future. I recently wrote a column about my last conversation with Pranab Mukherjee. After he retired as president, I went to see him, and we used to have interesting conversations. My last conversation, I asked Pranab Babu, when do you think the decline of the Congress began? And he thought for some time and said 1969. And for me, that was an interesting date, because he was actually, marking the date when the Congress, the original Congress, the Nehru's Congress rather, Gandhi-Nehru Congress, split and became the Indira Congress. If you remember, we used to call it Congress R, and then it became Congress Indira. And then subsequently it was called Indian National Congress. In my columns, I used to always refer to it as the Sonia Congress. But I think you need to go back, which means really bringing Sharad Pawar back, bringing Jagan back, bringing Mamata back, bringing all those who have left the party or who seem to be alienated from the party, who was on the sidelines, like the group of 24 chaps, or even someone like Mani Iyer. I mean, I think the Congress has to first reunite in order to be able to take up the BJP, because BJP has emerged as the dominant political party. Let's not run away from the reality of BJP.
So when you say that unless the Congress becomes the Indian National Congress, what you mean is all of these regional parties that were born from the womb of the original Congress, the YSR, the NCP, the TMC, that there has to be a move to bring them all back. But where is the realistic chance of this happening? Many of these parties are not even on the same page as the Congress party in their home states.
Yeah, so then you'll have to work on it. I mean, politics is not about realism. Politics is also about imagining possibilities. What are the possibilities? I mean, after all, the fact is that the opposition, when we call the opposition the India parties and the communists, They have all come to the view that the dominance of Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah has weakened Indian democracy. They've all come to the view that these institutions of the state have been captured by a coterie within the ruling party. This is the dominant discourse of the opposition, right? So everybody is worried about authoritarianism, fascism, or whatever. If that is the real challenge for India, if the constitution and the values of the constitution are being challenged, I mean, the opposition has to sit down and say, what do we do about it? You can't just pretend that it's all business as usual. You fight wherever you are powerful, I'll fight wherever I'm powerful, and then we'll see, maybe chance will throw up an opportunity, and we'll all come together and come back to power, which is what 2004 was, right? 2004 was an accidental, victory for the UPA. Nobody thought UPA would come to power. Now, if that's the kind of thing you have in mind, I don't see the BJP ever conceding ground, because it's a highly organized political force. Yeah. And how do you counter a highly organized political force with this kind of disparate, come one day, split another day? It won't work. This opposition strategy so far, what we have seen, is not going to work.
Let me end by returning focus to the female voter. I think you make an interesting point about how it's time for a second woman prime minister, the first being, of course, Indira Gandhi, also underscoring how the BJP has been able to woo, the BJP and its allies, I should say, have been able to woo the female voter. Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, recent examples. Is that to do with the gendering of politics, or is that actually to do with welfare schemes? Because, Mamata Banerjee has announced a scheme of her own. There has been a clear targeting of, these schemes vis-a-vis the female voter. So what is it really about when we talk about the female voter?
No, I think it's both. I think certainly there is welfare schemes have made a difference. I mean, the doling out of money in Bihar to women voters made a huge difference. So welfare schemes and spending money, the subsidies, etc., have made a difference. But having said that, I think there is a larger issue. And since you, Barkha, have a program on women and gender empowerment, yes. You will agree with me that it's an unfortunate reality today that we do not have a single political party led by a woman leader apart from Mamata Banerjee. And this is shocking in a country like India. Indira Gandhi, you can say, became prime minister by accident because she was the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru. But I think the time has come from some assertion of female power. And who is the person through whom that assertion can happen? Who symbolizes women's power? Who symbolizes gender empowerment in India today? The way in which Mamata Banerjee does. I cannot think of a second person. I just cannot think of a second woman leader in India who symbolizes gender empowerment in the manner in which she has come to symbolize.
And that does have a lot to do with her being self-made, because there are other prominent women in public life, but they didn't build that trajectory, or they didn't build that model on their own.
The only other prominent person is Priyanka Gandhi. I mean, if you say Sonia Gandhi is retired, mother and daughter. Yeah. No regional party has a woman leader. The communists don't have women leaders. The communists have actually sidelined their women leaders in Kerala, for example, right? Yeah. So, which political formation in India has a woman leader of any significance at any level of importance?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and I mean one that deserves much more attention. Just a final question. This has been a week when we've seen Mani Shankar Iyer lose his temper at the Congress party, and particularly some leaders within the Congress party. He spoke of Stalin being the consolidating force for the India bloc, while he said Rahul Gandhi can then be free to be prime minister. He also said he doesn't identify as a Rahulian, but as a Rajivian, making the distinction between father and son. This idea of Stalin, being the leader of the India bloc, how do you respond to that? A counter thought to yours.
First of all, Mani is from Tamil Nadu. Yes. Right? And therefore, I can imagine. Second, but what I was surprised is, don't forget, Mani Shankar Iyer was a member of the Trinamool Congress.
Correct.
He was with Mamata Banerjee. So I won't be surprised if he rethinks his proposition and accepts my thesis.
Have you had a little chat with him after your
No,
column
no, no.
and his
No,
rant?
I have not. I have not. But the point I make about Mamata Banerjee, which again is a disqualification for Stalin, is that she speaks in 3 languages. She's fluent in Bengali, Hindi, and English. Stalin, unfortunately, is basically one language person. And Tamil Nadu has been reduced to a single language state. Unfortunately, in Tamil politics, there are very few people who can be articulate in more than 2 languages. And I think Tamil Nadu requires to relook at its attitude towards language if it wants to have a national presence. But certainly Bengal has every right to have a national presence. And that brings me to my last point, Barkha, which I mentioned in my column, that Bengal has played an extremely important role in national politics. I mean, starting from Swami Vivekananda through Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, we've had a long history of Bengali, importance in national politics. And therefore, why shouldn't a Bengali be Prime Minister of India?
And, I once asked Pranab Mukherjee, since we're exchanging Pranab Mukherjee stories and you mentioned language, I said, don't you want to be Prime Minister? And, his face would go red, sometimes in anger, sometimes in irritation, and sometimes in amusement. And he finally thought, and he said, well, I can't be Prime Minister because I can't speak Hindi. So this idea from long ago that the leader of India has to be able to speak some Hindi, this is a serious idea.
Yeah, and Mamata can.
And not for the first time, Sanjaya Baru, you have sort of set tongues wagging and started a debate and reminded us that when you spoke about Manmohan Singh one day being Prime Minister, you got it right. So that throws up all kinds of possibilities. Dr. Baru, always a pleasure. Thank you so much and take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Barkha.
Bye-bye. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.